Your daughter's never gonna forget this day.
He's kind of dope, right?
So you definitely seem to be having fun playing this character. Maybe too much fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
This guy always seems like he's like a minute away from snapping, and you play that so well.
Thank you.
But what was the original appeal of the character for you?
Partially that. I mean, like that he's a guy on edge in this situation. I mean, I always find characters that are kind of outside of their comfort zone really fun to play. And the duality as well is a lot of fun, the covering up of, you know, who he really is and like when he slips through and like the actual Cooper comes out and the scariness of that, but also the humor that's coming out in the middle of this concert. And like, I found it just, as Knight would say, like delicious to be a part of a film like this, play a character like this. And it's just super challenging too. And I love like a good challenge. So it was not something I ever expected to play, but when he sent it to me and he asked me to play it, I was like, I can't not do this. This is going to be either really horrible or it's going to be fantastic. And hopefully I didn't fall flat on my face.
And you know, there's so much we don't know about the character. We don't even necessarily know like just how evil he can be. Is that something you kind of worked on by yourself, or did you talk to Knight about that?
Like what he does?
Yeah, and just
we did have to discuss it a little bit, just to get a sense. And I wanted to make the end of the movie, and I don't want to give anything away, but I wanted to make it as realistic as possible, as dark, you know, because we don't want to cheat the audience. So we wanted it to be that all of these disparate elements fit within one character, and not necessarily very neatly, but it made sense, like it was organic. And for me, it's like a character study, because that's what I'm an actor, that's what I do. I wanted to like get into all the minutiae of what he was thinking and what he was coming up and like when these little cracks occurred and all that sort of stuff. But it also had to be super entertaining for the audience, and Knight was always aware of that and kind of I think his shot choices were really interesting, especially with like, suddenly you're smack, you know, like you've got what's her name, Jodie's mom right in your face like that, and it's really it's kind of shocking in a weird way, in a funny way. I think like you know, Knight's a master of making films that appeal to an audience in this way, with mystery and tension and humor, and so I knew I was in great hands. And also he's like the most lovely guy in the world, and he allowed me this kind of great this great space to explore. And the character is like, there's a lot to explore there. We can make a lot of movies about Cooper.
Yeah. He likes that angle where you're talking directly to the camera, talking directly to the audience. Is that like an unusual thing for you as an actor to do?
Well, it's actually, he's got a little device that he uses, that you're looking at the lens, but it's the lens is covered by a one-way mirror, and the mirror is then hitting another mirror, and then it goes to the actor. So you can see the actor basically in the lens. So it doesn't feel as unnatural as you would expect.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I heard, or you see in the film, that there are just tons of extras there at the concert. What's it like working, knowing there's like 100 people there?
Thousands. And what I would say is that it would have been fine, and it would have been like, oh, this experience is so much like an actual concert, except I don't know what it was about me, but the extras kept coming up to me and telling me that I was going to be okay. Like, you're going to be good in this, don't worry about it. And like, I guess maybe they thought I was really having a tough time, but it's like the character's having a tough time, and I'm playing the character, and like people were being very encouraging. Like, I get a lot of pats on the back. And
you
they didn't know what the movie.
Really nervous or something.
They didn't know what the movie was, right? Because they weren't given the full scenario, so they're just watching me freak out in the middle of this in the middle of this theater and do all these weird things, and they're like, "Is that Josh freaking out?"
Right.
They didn't. They were concerned.
You were selling it.
They were concerned for me. Yeah.
You have a really nice rapport with the girl playing your daughter. She's a good little actress. So what can you tell me about working with her?
She's awesome. She's as kind of well prepared and open and smart an actor as I've ever worked with. Like she was just fully engaged the whole time, ready to go, and we made we tried to make it as kind of fun and exciting for her as possible, because she has to work and she has to go to school at the same time, and it's tough, and she was away from home. She's Australian, so she was putting on an American accent, and there was just a lot of pressure, I think, but we tried to limit that and make it just kind of a fun game. And also, the kind of sweet thing about the way this is written is that she doesn't really see any of the crazy stuff. So until maybe, we don't want to give too much away, but it's like, for the most part, it's just a daughter and a father at a concert having a fun time, and he's acting a little weird.
Yeah.
And so that wasn't, wasn't scary for her or anything. So.
And I guess that's the one thing about this character is that, he may be doing some despicable things, but he's also a devoted father, just trying to make sure his daughter has a good time.
Yes, but why?
Right.
I mean, it's all a cover, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that I love about this character is that, like, and you can debate it, but from my perspective, he has this magnificent cover that he's created, and he's very good at maintaining. But that is ultimately leaking into the way that he really feels about himself, and that's where this crazy conflict occurs within him later in the piece. And it's like that's a really it's like a journey of a serial killer finding himself, finding humanity in himself. That's fucking weird. It's a weird movie. I didn't write it. I just had to play it. Yeah.
I think between this and that Black Mirror episode that traumatized everybody, people are gonna start getting scared of you, man.
No. Oh yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't mind. Whatever. What I really want is for people to be surprised. Yeah. And next I'll do some sort of light comedy, and then hopefully they'll be laughing.
Awesome, man. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
So I'm sure you've been asked this a million times, but I still have to ask, what's it like working and collaborating with your dad? I mean, how thin is the line between father-daughter and collaborators?
I mean, I guess there isn't really a line. It's all kind of one and the same. And, this project, we kind of came up with this idea together, and it was very father-daughter kind of collaboration from the beginning. But he has, gave me so much respect in letting me have my own creative space to make the music. And then when it comes to the film, I'm, just subservient to him, and he's the master and sort of just trying to, fulfill the role and everything. So it was an amazing balance, actually.
How long had you guys been talking about maybe collaborating on a project together?
I mean, I lately have worked with him before, so on, his movie Old, I did a song for that, which was kind of like the first test. He had an idea to put a song in the script, and he wanted me to try writing it. Then I did an EP of songs for the Servant TV show, and then kind of in the middle of all that, we started talking about what if we did something more long form for a film, and kind of wrote an album of original songs for a movie, and we're very inspired by Purple Rain, and kind of like that idea, but in a thriller. So it's been, I guess, a couple years from just talking about it.
Does he just give you freedom to write the songs, or does he have any input on, well, this one should be about this, or something like that?
He didn't really prescribe, what the songs should sound like, more so whether or not they fit in the movie. So I would kind of pitch him ideas, and he'd say, that feels right, or that doesn't feel quite right, and then I kind of move forward with that. But once I sort of got an understanding of the sound that he was feeling for the film, I felt like it flowed really smoothly, and then I was just kind of giving him songs, and he was like, okay, great, next.
It's got to be cool. I mean, how much time did you have to, because I think it's, 12 songs or something like that?
It's 14,
14. How long did that take?
Not long. I mean, it was pretty fast, especially all the ones that you see on screen performed, because they had to be done before we started shooting. And so it was a finite amount of time between when he finished the script and when we started, performing them on stage on camera. So it was like really crunch time.
Given that, he's been directing for such a long time, you grew up in this business, sort of. Were you always interested in joining the entertainment industry in some capacity?
Music forever, yes, but it started out from classical piano. I played classical piano since when I was 4 years old. I started studying, and for most of my life I thought that was going to be my path, and go to a conservatory and study that and maybe be in an orchestra or something like that. And then only when I was about 15 or 16 did I start kind of having the desire to write my own and compose my own music. But the film aspect of it is very new and kind of has been this surprise, wonderful thing that I've loved a lot.
Yeah, I mean, this is your first film, and you're pretty front and center throughout, especially towards the end. Yeah. Was that intimidating at all?
Oh, yeah, so intimidated. I'm intimidated by everything. I'm like, I have stage fright. I'm afraid right now of being on camera. But I'm trying to, I believe in the art, and I think the movie is amazing. It's so fun, and I really was excited by the music, and so I was trying to use that strength to get me through.
What are your earliest memories of your dad's work? I mean, were you on sets? Were you allowed to hang out and watch him do his thing? Yeah,
my dad is very much about keeping the family together, and he doesn't like being away from his kids, so we would always be on set with him. And when we were kids, if he'd be shooting somewhere else, we'd travel with him, and we'd sometimes homeschool in the cities that he's shooting in. And so we were always, being on set and watching him work was a big part of our childhood.
Did this movie scare you at all?
Oh yeah, I mean, there was sometimes we'd be on set and we wouldn't be allowed to watch the movie because it's too scary.
Right. Understandable.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you so much.
Hey, I gotta go to the bathroom.
Don't rat me out. I won't. You know the butcher? The freaking nut job that goes around just chopping people up? Well, the feds or whatever heard that he's gonna be here today, so they set up a trap for him.
So how long have you been working on this particular idea, and where did it come from? Because it's a pretty unique story.
Yeah, it was an unusual birth of this film. It was a while ago. You'd have to ask Saleka at the first time we even talked about it, but it was years ago. This concept of, you know, that we can fuse a music movie and a thriller together, and it came from kind of, hey, you know, this is really, it's not happened very often. We were trying to think like Purple Rain did it, where Prince wrote an album for a narrative, and then you watched the album being performed because it was set at a club, and the characters were, you know, experiencing the music with you. And could we do that with a thriller and fuse those two experiences together so you get a concert experience and a thriller? And so that was in our head, and then you know, slowly I was like, oh, maybe it should take place in inside a contained thing like an arena, and then, well, why would they be in an arena? How could they get stuck in an arena? And that kind of thing, and so it became a trap like that.
Right. And I know you wrote somewhere that this was the fastest script you'd ever written,
Yeah.
like 5 months or something like that.
Yeah.
Why do you think that was?
I think it's very fun, you know, and very buoyant, and I mean, it's Signs was the other one that was really fast. So I think that those two movies kind of have a playfulness about them. And so when I went to work every day, going to sit down to write it, it was a joy. You know, it was a joy. And Signs, for example, like when I was not in a good headspace, I wouldn't sit down. I was like only going to write when I'm in a right headspace, which is dangerous. By the way, don't do that. But in this case, every day was kind of playful, and I was like, ooh, this could happen to Cooper. And I think because he was enjoying the pressure, like, you know, these guys that have no empathy almost, when they get close to being caught, they get kind of excited about it.
Cat and mouse.
Yeah, they love it. It's like, so he's getting more excited the closer he is to getting caught. So writing like that was fun.
And is also part of the joy sort of forcing the audience to kind of, you know, follow this guy along, even though he's a pretty despicable guy.
Yeah.
But almost forcing the audience to invest in his scenario there.
Yeah, that is fun. That's kind of the wickedness of it, is the rooting for the guy, rooting for the bad guy to get out, and he has so many fun characteristics about him that you find him kind of delicious. And so yeah, the wickedness of it was really, really fun to write.
Did your daughter have any input in the screenplay, and did you have any input in the songwriting?
Only on the screen. No, we kind of live in our own worlds of like domains that we kind of run, you know. But it was mutual in the sense of kind of saying, "Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about it being a serial killer?" And you know, and he realizes they set a trap for him, and oh, I love it, and you know, that kind of thing. And so her excitement about it was kept pushing me forward. And then I would say, "Hey, we need this many songs." I'm wondering, the character maybe is kind of a pop star who has, you know, this kind of wit about, you know, we would learn the character together.
What do you think about your daughters both kind of getting into this entertainment industry? One obviously directed a film earlier this year.
Yeah.
And now you're collaborating with Saleka, collaborating with both of them. Did you ever envision that when they were growing up?
You know, I would say the arts are a big deal in our house. I don't know if you know, a lot of kids, you know, to do sports and study arts and learn the piano or whatever it is, or ballet or whatever, you know, as a part of enriching themselves. So the idea that at some point it became an idea for a profession feels natural in our house, right? Because we spend most of our time talking about art and its relationship to commerce and the bad part about that and how to be yourself. And, you know, they've been watching me do it for 30 years, and it's inevitable, you know, that we do this. But both of them, I think Saleka going into music, which is a new field for us, we didn't really know anything about music, and her kind of leading the way in that, whether it was classical piano and then her going touring or whatever it is, that was her own kind of journey, and then Ishana's is different because it's so much what she grew up in.
Yeah. From what I've read about you and seen, like, featurettes, you're very specific, and, you know, you plan ahead, storyboarding everything. Are you still that way? Do you kind of know exactly, do you have the movie in your head before you start shooting?
100%.
Yeah.
Every shot's been thought out and worked out, and in this kind of movie where it's, you know, so many extras, and you're navigating in a, you know, basically going, we're only going to be using this, okay? Like, even when I'm like, hey, 3 shots from now, we're going to be very low on Josh, aiming at the ceiling, send them all to lunch. You know, like, knowing exactly how we're cadencing the piece. I'll give you, for example, because I knew exactly how we were shooting it, we could say, okay, we're going to do the audience reactions first to get the real reactions to the concert, because they're literally watching a real concert, and then they're kind of singing along because we gave them the songs beforehand. But you get and then we turn around, and by that time, the performers and Saleka have really rehearsed it, so we can navigate the best way to use the day because we know every single shot.
That's so cool. And I was wondering how many extras you were working with. Is this the largest group of people you've ever worked with?
I think it is. I mean, I'm trying to think, like, Unbreakable, we had some stadium scenes and all that stuff, and The Village was a certain amount of people that we had, but this was definitely the biggest. There were some days it was just so many, and it was exciting, but it was a natural setting. They're coming to an arena to watch a concert, which everyone has done, so it was very easy for them to play these parts.
Right, they were doing it.
They were just doing it, yeah.
I got to ask about the casting of Haley Mills, which is so interesting. Some of my viewers will have to Google who that is. She's one of the original Disney kids, a Parent Trap and all that. How did she get involved in the movie?
You know, when I was thinking about how to approach the subject of a serial killer and it be fresh to me, the first thing was, hey, do it from his perspective. That could be really, really interesting and make you sympathize. But then the second one was, who's his adversaries and who's trying to catch him? And rather than it being one guy chasing another guy, I thought, wow, what if it was a maternal figure that was an expert about these guys? So, and this maternal figure really is not trying to physically beat them, but just emotionally beat them. So somebody with empathy is trying to catch people that have no empathy. And so that mother figure, a relationship to Josh was, I think, titillating to him, and I thought into me as the person writing it.
And of course, he's got some mommy issues.
As always.
Finally, what's next? Do you know what your next project is?
I have a notebook, and I know roughly the next 3 or 4 in my head. I think I know what they are. I don't know exactly the order, but there's one I started writing about 2 weeks ago. Just started writing notes as I handed in this movie. If I handed in Trapped to Warner Brothers, I started to write the new notes. Even this last night, as I was going to bed, I was like, oh, I know what I want to do with that new movie. And it snowballs, and when it gets to it, the notebook gets big enough, then I'm like, it's a go, time to get married.
Do you ever write like 3 different things at once, or do you like try to narrow it down to just one thing?
It's hard to do that because it's an obsessive thing I'm talking about. So, like, for example, the reason that idea came last night, that's all I'm thinking about. So it's sitting there. If I had 3 of them, it'd be trickier.
Right.
It'd be trickier. I'm getting obsessed by it. You have to get obsessed by it, and then every little thing starts to feed that snowball.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, man.
Thanks,
Congrats
brother.
on the movie.
Thank you, brother.